Hey guys, it's time for another stop and chat. And the video down below is from ABC News, and they were covering Greta Thunberg's trip overseas to the United Nations Summit. And I believe she spoke before the UN climate panel or climate change panel, one of the two. And she's had a couple of public appearances. She was speaking before a House of Representatives committee. I don't remember which one it was, but they were featuring her along with some other panelists. Miss Margolin, I remember, was one of the speakers. By the way, Papa JF did a really funny video kind of roasting them, just a live reaction video roasting them. It was pretty good. But I want to start off by saying that I agree with Styx. Styx said a couple days ago, when he was covering Greta Thunberg, that she's very well spoken. And she has very good orator skills. And, you know, I wish I would have had those speaking skills when I was 14 years old. I've always had an ambition for public speaking. And, you know, good on her for refining her skills and going before a pretty big audience. And, you know, whoever watches the legacy media, as well as those in the alternative media, she certainly has been in the spotlight and has gained exposure by both. And you know, another thing I want to say too is that I am going to get a lot of flack for making this video. I acknowledge that. I'm going to get flack from either side, you know, so people on the left are going to say, well, oh, how dare you attack a young girl? And people on the right are going to say, well, how dare you give this girl any more exposure? You know, like, stop trying to, you're basically contributing to the problem. So I want to go kind of down the middle here, and I just want to say that I look at somebody like Greta Thunberg, who has admitted that she has depression, and I believe she's even said that she takes medication for it. She is somebody that I look to as a great example of somebody that is mentally unstable, yet able to repeat whatever's given to her in terms of a script. And what I suspect she has is Asperger's. And drawing from personal experience here, I have a friend with Asperger's. I've actually got a couple, but this one friend in particular, he is somebody who has an innate ability to watch a stand-up routine like only once, and he'll be able to repeat the whole thing. And for those who don't know, Asperger's is on the autism spectrum. It's towards the lighter side, but nonetheless, it is debilitating, especially in the social sense. So she, or rather my friend, he has the ability to repeat these stand-up routines word by word, and often does it in, you know, socially inappropriate situations. You know, say we're at the bar and we're, you know, trying to talk baseball or trying to talk about anything else. It's just not a very conversation-worthy thing to do, because there's no way you can really respond to that. You can, you know, politely fake laugh, or, you know, there's not much else you can do. It's pretty sad, to be honest. But I really do believe that Greta Thunberg has Asperger's. I do want to say too, I've made this video. I think I've made like 2 takes before here that I ended up publishing and then ended up deleting. So I just want to say the reason why I've deleted so many of the previous uploads is because I kept mispronouncing her name, and if I still do, please forgive me. But I kept calling her Greta Thunberg when it's really Greta Thunberg. It's a Swedish name. So it's very sad, and there's a moment down below in the video where she's speaking, and she says, you know, my youth has been robbed from me, I don't belong here, I should be at school. You know, I couldn't agree anymore, to be honest, in all sincerity. I feel pretty resentful towards her parents. You know, for what it's worth, they've been photographed wearing Antifa t-shirts. They made the excuse of, oh, we just borrowed it from a friend, it was a joke. I'm pretty ashamed of them that they have put their own child out in the spotlight in order to push a political message and to, you know, make a buck or two. It's really sad. And it plays right into the left's playbook, because what they're doing is they're taking this poor young lady who's mentally unstable, if not mentally disabled, and using her as their mouthpiece in order to deflect any type of criticism. And this is how the left operates. They're always going to resort to emotion rather than logic. And that's kind of where the whole facts and logic, destroyed by facts and logic meme comes from, from the spirit of Ben Shapiro. It's the same thing. They're going to use this poor young girl as their mouthpiece, because anybody that says, well, what she's saying is actually, like, you look at the actual research, what she's saying is factually wrong. She isn't really offering any data, by the way. I just hear her saying things like people are dying, ecosystems are collapsing, not really offering any data. But the people behind her, they'll basically just run the Al Gore playbook and say, well, global warming is a very real thing. The sea levels are rising. And don't mind the fact that, my buddy Barack Obama, he bought a house over there at Martha's Vineyard. No, it doesn't, don't worry about that. You guys got to worry about, you eating hamburgers and using plastic straws. I mean, that in its own is enough to pretty much debunk global warming, and it pretty much has. And not to get off topic here, but people like Al Gore, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence more recently, they've all talked about climate change, yet they are flying in private jets themselves, which should say a lot. I mean, because it kind of goes against their message in a lot of ways. So the hypocrisy, the hypocrisy is very strong with them. And it is one of their least redeemable qualities. Anyways, they're going to use this poor young girl to push their message, and they're going to specifically target emotionally weak people that don't really resort to logic. They resort to emotions, as most lefties do. And keep in mind, I mean, some lefties, if not most of them, they do have good intentions. They do want to save the world, they want to reduce crime and all this jazz, but some of them, and most of them actually, I mean, they don't use their brain, they use their hearts. And, a lot of people will say, well, that's, very admirable on its own, but it's not a very pragmatic way to go about things. And they're going to use this poor young girl, Greta Thunberg, as their mouthpiece in order to tug on the heartstrings of those who are emotionally weak and logically weak. They're going to say, oh, well, this poor young girl, she's crying, this must mean that what she's saying is true, which is kind of the whole point. That's what they want to do. And I want to go ahead and draw from personal experience here in closing. When I was in 8th grade, this was around the time that The Day After Tomorrow came out and Inconvenient Truth came out. My science teacher had us watch both, and, he was convincing us that global warming is real. This is in a public school, mind you, so maybe it puts a little context on it. I was legitimately scared. I was legitimately scared that there was going to be a hole ripped through the ozone layer, and that, cold air from the space vacuum, freezing air from the space vacuum would flow into Earth, and, it would cause Mexico to snow and for it to be 100 degrees in Chicago. So I was legitimately scared as a kid. And the same thing is working, for kids that are at that age, middle school and high school, they're legitimately scared. And even, going back to the example of Dianne Feinstein with her, with the kids, I think they were elementary school kids, they were in her office. These kids are legitimately scared that climate change is going to destroy the world. And this is a video for a whole other topic, or rather, this is a topic for a whole other video, rather, climate change. I have my thoughts on climate change, but these poor children, they have been manipulated into thinking that we're going to die. We're going to die in 12 years because the world's going to end. And it's really sad. It's pretty pathetic, too, coming from the left. But you have to understand this is where the left, this is how they operate. They have no shame. They really don't. And they're going to continue to fearmonger until they essentially gain political power and they're able to set policies. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. So anyways, when I was watching, this was back in 8th grade, when I was watching The Day After Tomorrow, the scene where Jake Gyllenhaal's and Emmy Rossum's character, they're in that library. There's a very subversive scene in that movie. They were burning one of the oldest Bibles in the world just to stay warm. I mean, it was obviously what kind of message they're trying to send there. But they were like running down this hallway as this beam of ice came flowing down the hallway, like freezing up everything in its path. It was like, I legitimately thought that was going to happen. I legitimately thought that, oh, I'm going to step outside one day and I'm going to freeze up like that helicopter pilot the day after tomorrow. So it's just, it's not good, folks. And you should never let fear dictate the way you live, because if you do, you're just going to be a miserable person. You know, let love guide your actions. And if you do that, you'll be happy. And if you listen to your gut, you'll be happy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. And I'll see you later tonight.